In a time and place when you can work from anywhere.
Two ladies in their mid to late 27s have decided to.
And they're calling it workationing.
But how much danger is involved with traveling the world as American women?
Their friends and families are a little concerned.
My family is more than a little concerned.
Kelly's Uncle Tom took the time to write a Facebook message warning of the dangers.
This is what his message said.
And this is the Workationing Podcast. So, Kelly, we got a Facebook message.
We did. For workationing?
We did. We got a Facebook message on workationing, and I think that we should read it because I saw it, and it's a very long, multi-paragraph Facebook message, and it seems to be coming from a place of concern, and I don't know this man.
Oh, who is it?
Dana Miller?
Oh, I know who that is.
Do you?
Yeah, that's my Uncle Tom.
Okay, your Uncle Tom. I don't have an Uncle Tom.
I do.
Okay.
I'll be really actually interested to see what he has to say because he is a businessman, has been for a couple of decades, and he travels near constantly, probably more than anyone I know, into weird places too. Like he stays going to like China, India. I guess the places aren't that weird, but it is
Seems kind of weird to me.
Well, I mean, yeah, you can only imagine what the culture shock is like there.
So he's an experienced traveler is what you're getting at. Extremely,
extremely experienced. He flies tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 miles a year. He's told me before, I forget how many he said, but it's stupid. Like he could fly around the world several times with the amount of miles he flies every year.
Okay, well, Uncle Tom has it looks
and I'm
like
sure he's concerned
advice. I'm sure he is.
I know Uncle Tom very well, and I'm sure that he is. I'm sure he has just many concerns.
Well, he's outlined them here in this Facebook
I'm
message.
excited. Okay, let's do this.
All right, so I'm just going to read this. Hang on, let me take a sip of water first. Agua con gas.
Yes.
Con limon. Our Airbnb came with a lime squeezer,
which is just so clutch.
Oh, God, because you know we like that agua con gas con limon.
See?
All right, so Uncle Tom writes, "Hi, Kelly. I just heard your podcast number 6, which was what? Was that the...
That was the Where We Went Wrong.
Ooh.
I'm sure he has a lot to...
Ooh. So your family listens to this podcast. My family doesn't even know I'm out here. It'll be just a fun surprise for them.
Yeah.
I tell them afterward the adventures that I've had.
My family's suffering through the horror.
Okay,
so.
Well, Uncle Tom has heard podcast number 6, and he writes, "As you know, I travel a lot, though I get that what I do is not remotely like workationing. I do, however, have some experience in keeping safe. I am required to go to some fairly sketchy places on the planet, and I might offer a few more things to consider." Here's where Uncle Tom has just subtitled his paragraphs.
Oh, I'm not surprised. We have a lot of writers in my family.
Listen, we've got lots of sections to this message. So the first one is, your sketch radar is not calibrated.
I think we have confirmed.
Is it that obvious?
I think it's so obvious. But yes, I think that sounds right.
Okay, well, Kelly, Uncle Tom writes that your sketch... I'm not going to take this on for myself. I think he's writing this to you directly. Okay. And he's saying that your sketch radar is not calibrated.
That feels right.
He continues. "As I go repeatedly to the same place and I start to understand a culture, I realize that when I arrive somewhere, signs and signals that I use to identify the relative safety of a place or a person do not always work. Body language, verbal cues, and the general quote-unquote look of a neighborhood can be very misleading. Some places, as you have seen, change drastically from day to night or even 1 hour to the next. Even somewhere that's safe at 8 p.m. is not safe at 10 p.m. The level of safety is also drastically different depending on if you are with a local. This is due to the next point." And I will say that, just to jump in on the due to a local, you and I have been really into the local fixers.
Yes.
Which we talked about on our local flavor episode of the podcast, right?
Like, yeah. And also just, because we've talked about that a lot, how are we safe and can we tell? Because right now my impression is that, so we're in Medellin right now.
Yep.
And in Medellin, it's like, this is the cleanest, most beautiful city I've ever seen, and we're staying in the very nicest part of it. And I think that my instinct when we first got here was that this was probably just an extremely safe place.
It looks like San Francisco, but without the homeless people and water.
Right. It's insanely gorgeous and clean and nice, and it looks so affluent. Mm-hmm. And yet I think it's a little dangerous here.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. But then Aguada was it looked sketchier, but I think we were actually supremely safe there.
I would agree with that. I would. So Uncle Tom still has more to write.
Oh, yes.
And so the first point was your sketch radar is not calibrated. I would agree with that, Uncle Tom.
I would agree. And
for Kelly, at least, not for me.
And I'm not really sure how to... We're working on calibrate. I'm not even sure how to calibrate it. We're working on...
Do I want it to be calibrated? What do you have to go through for your sketch radar to be calibrated?
Ooh, that's true.
That's just constant testing of your sketch radar.
And all of our road lessons have been hard-earned.
They have been. All right, so... Oh, you're going to love this one. I'm just like rubbing my face and just my eyes. I'm just like.
Is Uncle Tom laying some truth on you?
Rubbing my face down my eyes in a way that they're just like dropping down my face. And I look like Droopy Dog because the next point is I don't like this at all. I think he's probably right. You are a lot more visible than you realize. All right, let's see what he has. Let's check out this elaboration. So the subheadline. You are a lot more visible than you realize. Uncle Tom continues, your clothes, the way you carry yourself, the level of your voice.
Was that a dig, Uncle Tom?
I don't know. Has he heard me cackle before?
He's definitely heard me cackle.
your style choices. And okay. All right. Style choices. I feel like that's a dig on yoga pants. I don't think that Uncle Tom is really digging on my yoga pants.
I feel like this is insecurity of I think he's more questioning just my personal fashion choices, which we know can be a little
well, I know the people here question them. I've watched them openly question our fashion choices. Like, ladies, it's 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Yoga pants.
Yeah.
Flip-flops. Top knot. Huh?
It's such the life, though. Like, I'm so comfortable. Listen, I'm sorry my toes are liberated and yours are not.
I feel really badly for these women that they don't know what it's like to roll around in yoga pants all the time.
Listen, I see these incredible women just booking it up these insane hills.
In heels!
In heels, girl.
3-inch heels. Minimum.
I mean, and I've got nothing but respect for it, but it's not going to be me, girl.
No. Flip-flops and some tennis shoes. But the style choices, all of these things make us stick out. Uncle Tom writes, if you think you're blending in, you are not. I had no illusions about that. I think
we had a brief illusion. We had a brief illusion about that, but I think
few days just washed right out of us. This is also mostly just interesting, but it means that your predators can easily identify you.
That's so true, is it not?
I'm
sure that's true.
Oh, just like we can smell Americans out here, I feel like other people can just like.
Oh, I can
you're not
clock a
here.
gringa at like 3 blocks.
We really can.
I'm like, sister. Do you want to get some Starbucks?
Would you like a brunch, gringa? Yeah. Tom continues, I will use a different context example to make the point. I can easily tell Japanese, Korean, and Chinese businessmen apart at a conference, even though they may be dressed identically, by how they walk and what they look at. Think about how much better a predator would be at this than I am. How you dress can make a big difference, but I am also a one carry-on bag guy, and that limits my options. We are also one carry-on bag girls, so.
Yeah.
Tom continues, I just own my middle-aged white guy American businessman look, even though it makes me a target. Logistically, it just can't be helped. If you look American, and that's generally not a good thing. You can't help it. We can't help it.
We can't. Like, how am I supposed to blend? Tell me how, girl.
Well, he says, people say don't wear tracksuits and Nikes, but in the end, you can't hide it.
I say do it, gringo.
You wear those tracksuits and Nikes. Wear them with pride. Recognize that there might be risks involved, but Tom continues, there are fewer places every day that Americans are welcomed and admired. But even in those places, there are the people who realize that the plane ticket you bought to get here would feed and house their family for a year. There are folks who will resent the crap out of you just for that.
We've encountered a little bit of that as well. Because actually something that we encountered here in Medellin, also that I think it was surprising for us, is that everything here is so cheap.
Yep.
And then but it's a real insult to tip over 10%.
Which we had to ask our waiter about. Because we weren't sure if tip was included, and in some places tips are included, and in other places you have to add them on. And you have to tell them if they're going to run it on your credit card, you have to tell them in advance. Propina inclusivo.
No, and they find it very insulting. And also, we've also just had some horrified locals be like, Gringas, put your money away. Because we're just like flashing and not a ton. We're talking like the equivalent of like $60 maybe.
Maybe, just whipping out that 60.
And they're like, put that away. You know, and so it's hard to even understand, coming from the U.S., the amount of affluence and wealth that is just completely normal to us.
Right.
And that here, I think somebody told us, this may not be correct, but someone just told me the other day that minimum wage here in Medellin is the equivalent of like 35 cents back home.
Per hour?
Yeah. So if we're like flashing around $60,
that's a month's worth of wages.
That's like crazy.
2 weeks, maybe 3.
Listen, I'm not here to do math.
Me neither. All right.
That's for the suits in Washington to handle.
All right. So Uncle Tom continues. The best you can do is try and keep a low profile, particularly when traveling or when you are not with locals. Also, be kind and respectful to everyone. This is good advice generally, but in this case, it serves not to set somebody off who might already have you bagged as an ugly American.
We try so hard to be nice. Although sometimes we found out that even being nice is like not necessarily, what we consider nice. Because then it's like too pushy. It's like over the top.
Right. Well, he says the American baggage you carry is extra heavy and visible when you are visiting overtly Muslim or Buddhist countries. Try to take your cues from those around you. Which we've been trying to do, but there's only so much that you can do in terms of like taking your cues from those around you. Like when you're two ladies traveling and you see that there's the women walking down the street here are holding hands, and not in a lesbian way, but multi-generational. It's.
But what you don't see is just like a typical, like you don't see a lot of female friendship. You don't see women going out together like in groups.
No.
If you're out in a restaurant and you look around, all the women who are there are either there with people who are clearly their family members or there as a couple. Mm-hmm. And what we almost never see, we've seen it maybe twice, is women who look to be a peer group.
Yep.
Socializing. That we do not see out here. And so when we go out together, we draw attention, and we're white, and we're cackling, and
Kelly's really funny, and I can't help a good cackle sometimes.
Listen, we love a good wine cackle. Just also, the ladies out here don't drink a bottle of wine with dinner and then take one to go.
You order a bottle of wine for two ladies, and it's just gringas on party night. Is this what it is? And we're like, no, this is like a rough Tuesday.
No, and it's like they need to call the president to like clear it.
It's a thing.
They're like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to run this up the chain.
Okay, so now Uncle Tom wants to talk about fixers, because the next subtitle is The Fixer.
Oh, I hope he likes fixers.
We love our fixers.
We love fixers.
I'm so excited to tell people about our Colombian fixers, because they're going to geek out.
Yes. If they're not up yet, they will be soon. And those podcasts, our fixers podcast, you really need to get it on because it's good.
We've got 2 fixers out here. And one we met on Tinder, one we met at the pool.
And they're just both a real treat.
Santiago and Mauricio.
I love them.
We do. All right. So The Fixer. Uncle Tom writes, I am very fortunate in that the majority of my travel is with a local of some sort who serves as a fixer. I listen.
Hey.
I listen closely to them and follow their lead. Are they drinking freely? Are they quiet and circumspect? Are they spending some significant portion of their attention on minding their environment? It's important that the fixer likes you. He or she will do a lot more for you if they do. Anyway,
our fixers have been fantastic. Although you know what I will say about that though? I completely agree with what he's saying, except that I feel like our fixers, just by virtue of the fact that because they do really like us.
Yep.
But just by virtue of the fact that they enjoy hanging out with the two of us are, I think, atypical. Maybe, and I don't know, they both of them have given us both of them are very quick to tell us when we're acting like ridiculous gringas. But at the same time, I think they have a much higher tolerance for us in general.
They do. Well, and so one of them is
they're
a good
outliers.
old Southern American boy.
Yes.
And tell me a good old Southern American boy who doesn't love a sassy lady who he's not married to.
And we met him here, and it was just like my brother.
Right? No, it's great. It's great.
He reminds me of like my like he actually does remind me of my brother and of like my family members. Like he's just got that like good gringo heart. You know what I mean? He's just a good guy.
Well, and the fixer that we're talking about right now is Santiago. And actually, Santiago and I went out to dinner the other night. And Kelly was home, and Santiago and I came back. And we met Kelly downstairs. We're in this big fancy building. And we met Kelly downstairs. She was locked out, came with the key. And I got out of the Uber, and there was just the most gorgeous woman in these white denim shorts. And it was what, like 10, 9?
Yeah, it was like, yeah, because I left around 10. So yeah, it was around 10.
Yeah, I think they were getting ready to go out for the night, and we were coming back. And I saw this woman, and I have a thing where if I see a badass bitch just looking like a queen, I can't not tell her about herself. No. She needs to know.
No, you left out of that cab. It was like you saw that girl, like you couldn't get out of the cab fast enough to tell this girl how slamming she looked.
She needed to know. And the thing is, like, I love getting compliments from women, because when I get compliments for men, sometimes it's always like, well,
yeah, like
what's the motivation behind this? But when you just see a lady who's just geeked to tell you about how good you look, you know that you probably earned that compliment.
Right.
Right?
She was not geeked, I have to say.
No, so I came out and I was just like, sister, you are gorgeous. What did I say to her?
Oh, God. You were like, girl, yes.
Just snapping. Yes.
Just snapping.
Yes,
just
queen.
snapping. And you were like, you look slamming. And you're like, como se dice slamming? And this girl is just like, gringa. Like, what are you doing? She looked a little stressed. And then this girl is with this guy who looked like, here's the thing. I was getting ready to go meet somebody. I was waiting for Kari to come back because I left something in the apartment and needed to get back in. This guy had been out in the parking lot for a while with these dudes who, if it's like that filter thing that he was talking about, like you don't necessarily know what you're looking at. A month ago, I would have looked at these dudes and been like, who are these Jersey Shore looking motherfuckers? Like, these are the biggest these guys were cartel for sure. Like, after having been here for a month.
Cartel.
For sure.
Cartel.
For sure.
So I went up and told the cartel girlfriend.
Yeah, and then you turn to this guy who she's with, who was like pretty clearly the leader of these people who've been hanging out, right? And you turn to him and you go, do you know how hot she is? And this guy looks right at you and goes, she's an 8 to me. And you go, she's a 42.
At that point, Santiago starts grabbing at my arm.
Santiago forcibly removed you, dragged you to the elevator, and was just like, he was like, you're gonna get us fucking killed.
Telling a lady that she's gorgeous.
He's traveled in Latin America for a long time, and he was like, you're gonna get us fucking killed. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, you can't just say that. I'm like, you know that girl. Like, and first of all, that's probably not his girlfriend. Like, that's something else.
Excuse me. Excuse me for reading the context clues and just misreading them entirely.
And you were just like, what? You were like, no, really? You think that? And Santiago was like, yes. And I was like, no, girl, I've been down there for like half an hour waiting for you guys. So I've been watching all of this, and I saw all the sick-ass cars that they were coming in. Trust that those were some dangerous men. And you wanted to fight this guy for saying this girl was an 8.
She was really a 42, though. He needed to know. What was he? He was a solid 4.
He was a 4 with probably like a cool 50 mil from the cars I saw.
Okay, well, all right, that might elevate him to a 6.
Okay.
I don't know. All right, listen. So, Uncle Tom, your concerns are well founded.
So founded because we've almost died a few times. We're still learning these lessons.
I'm trying to compliment people, and I'm almost getting killed.
Oh, girl, it was such a mess. I was laughing so hard, though.
When, like in the elevator when
yeah,
we were safe.
Because it was just the best. Because you were like, "What? No, it's fine." And Santiago, he was literally like head against the wall, just like, "Oh, these gringas are gonna get me fucking killed."
I don't know why.
Like, I think it's fine. You were incensed. You're like, that girl's not an 8. She is a 42.
No, she really was.
She was a 42.
And I would personally like to punch a guy in the balls anytime who fucking has the audacity to be like, oh no, she's just an 8, but sister was slamming, and what, you need to put down a lady? Did she even understand that?
But I think the problem is that you hopped out of the car, and what you saw was a slamming chick who was with some Jersey Shore looking freak who you thought was just like below her, and you were just going to right this wrong. Unfortunately, what happened was that a gringa just flew off the handle into the middle of like a pretty dangerous situation.
So long story short, we don't compliment women here anymore.
No.
Mind
your business here in Medellin.
This is a long story of how you don't tell a lady that she looks great when she looks great. She doesn't want to hear it. She already knows it. She spent 2 hours getting ready.
In the blueprint of your like American life,
right?
That situation made perfect sense. And there's nothing about that at home that would really even be dangerous.
No, nothing about that.
But here, that was a very dangerous situation. And honestly, it might have not been the best situation for her either. Because if she hadn't been mean to you, that could have gone badly for her as well, and hopefully it didn't go badly for her.
Can you imagine living that way?
No, I really can't. But that's the thing, is that like when you put that blueprint of like your home on top of a place, you can't. It's taken us a while to understand what this place is. Our fixers have been a big part of helping us understand that, because they're very quick to be like, girl, I'm gonna need you to
keep your compliments to yourself, sister.
Just eyes down, gringa.
Exactly. Eyes down, gringa. You walk to your penthouse and you don't look anybody in the eye on the way there.
Right.
So, Kelly's Uncle Tom, thank you for the note. That's where he ended it. He wanted to talk about the fixers and
he really is someone who knows what he's talking about. I could stand to learn. I think these are what I'm excited about is that these are all lessons that we have not mastered in any way, but after, a few weeks on the road, I think we're starting to, these are all things we've at least thought about, sometimes because we've gotten ourselves in some pretty hairy situations, which I think we'll talk about a little bit more on the other podcasts.
Right.
But at least we're getting there. Hopefully we learn these lessons without dying.
Well, and actually, so you wrote to your uncle back, and I can see this whole chat history. He wrote back to you, and there's one other paragraph that I want to read because I think it's really relevant. It's especially relevant to other women who are coming from the U.S. and traveling in different countries and getting used to, we didn't realize how good we had it in the U.S. And it's not perfect.
No.
Do not get me wrong. It is not perfect.
It creates this weird cognitive dissonance because back home, there's a lot of attacks on women's reproductive rights. There's a lot of just attacks on civil rights in general. And it all does feel really heavy and really scary. But at the same time, you come someplace like I haven't seen gay people of you.
No.
Not openly.
No.
I'm sure they're here.
No, we know that they're not comfortable existing out in the open out here. We've heard that from many locals.
Women don't even go to dinner together here.
They don't.
And it's not that I'm saying that back home. The last thing I'm saying is that people should be like, well, listen, ladies and gays and everyone else, like, you've got it pretty good, so you should
relative
just not
to
complain.
the rest of the place. Yeah,
not at all.
No.
But it does put some of the it does like put things in perspective, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. In a horrifying perspective. It
makes you realize just kind of how messy the world is.
Oh, it's fucked. It's especially fucked for women.
This place is run by cartels. That's apparently a thing that can happen.
No. Women don't like each other here.
Right.
Even. So again, Uncle Tom wrote one last paragraph that I think is absolutely worth reading for the listeners. And so he says one more thing. The quote unquote judgey thing that you talked about is a signal that you should pay attention to. Some of the stuff you do and say is very unique to the U.S.
I'm sure that's true.
Right? There are very few places in the world where your social and political ideas will be accepted. My social and political ideas aren't even accepted in the U.S.
Right.
Some of them are. Maybe.
Right.
All right. There are many places. He's talking about the political and social stances that we have. There are many places that the act of saying what you believe, much less doing what you believe, is illegal. This is something to consider as you choose your destinations. Well, I mean, We know that. So
yeah, well, we've considered that a little bit. There's some countries that are just a hard no.
You know,
and by
in the
some
U.S.
countries, I mean more than half the world, actually.
I will say that in the U.S., they're still throwing people in jail for marijuana possession, whereas out here, you can have 20 grams of marijuana and totally legal. It's personal use. You can grow, is it 10 or 20 plants? I think it's 20 plants.
20 plants.
You can grow out here.
Right.
Should you choose to, and that's just personal use. So I mean,
but it changes. But there are certain things like just the complete lack of gay people out here. I mean, you know, they're here.
Very concerning to me.
But you know, but you can tell that like so, and it's different in every place, right? It almost throw people in jail for like a minor marijuana possession, but like despite everything, like you can more or less, especially in a major metropolitan area, you can be gay,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to say it's easy or anything, but like you can be gay. I don't think you can be gay out here.
No, I don't think that you can either. And Santiago was talking about his gay friend from Venezuela, and he comes out here and has sex with all of the straight men.
Oh, and we encountered those lovely gentlemen on the roof one night, one of which was a fashion photographer.
A fashion photographer.
Yeah,
just
listen,
to underscore that.
I'm not trying to stereotype here,
Nope.
but I know what I was looking at before he ever told me he was a fashion photographer.
We walked up to the roof, and immediately Kelly and I were like, oh, gay guys.
We were excited.
Thank God. Because, again, we talked about this in Aguada. When you don't see gay people, but you know that they exist, but they can't exist openly, it begs the question of how safe are alternative lifestyles here, and
right. And they were clearly gay, and I'm like, oh, affluent gays. I was like, oh, thank God. This place isn't as scary as I thought.
Our people.
Until their beards showed up. And we were like, oh, okay, so you act like this isn't what's happening. All right.
No, but it clearly is, because we went over to their house with the one guy's girlfriend. The two dudes lived together.
Well, they tried to act like they didn't. It was just...
The one guy had his toothbrush in the same holder because the lady didn't live there. They just started dating. So this was all very, very, very confusing to me. Well, I knew what I was looking at.
I did too. We 100%. And then we got confused because we're like, so you're
like, we only went to their place because we thought that they were gay.
Right. I don't think we would have otherwise, honestly.
No, we wouldn't have. We absolutely would not have, because it was two dudes who we thought were just into each other, and there was.
I know what two gay dudes on a rooftop look like. Okay.
We were saying that a lot. I know what two gay guys on a rooftop look like. That's what we were looking at. Right? Yeah, no, it was
1,000%. 1,000%. But I just don't think you do that here. And I think they were trying to cover it up because I think they didn't know who we were. And then they were worried. It's the impression that I got.
Well, I don't give a fuck.
No, but they don't know us. They don't know who we are. You know what I mean? So I think it's, what it makes me think of is like, my brother is really into like sci-fi and like fantasy novels and that kind of shit.
Okay.
I'm not, but he is. And like, I like hearing him talk about it because he's a really smart guy, but he just talks, the thing that he's really into, and he's a writer also. He wrote a book. You can get it on Amazon. It's called The Pack.
This is the same brother who's also in med school.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. My brother's in med school and he's a fantasy author.
Those Chase kids don't fuck around.
No, they don't. And he's single, ladies. He's just so single.
Oh, and cute.
And a feminist.
Yes.
So
somebody's going to snatch your brother up.
Email me, kelly@workationing.com. Anyways, so, and the thing that he always talks about is like world building. That's what he's really into. And that's what I kind of feel like, it's kind of like an immersive world building experience. Like the way that an author creates this whole other world, this whole other culture, this whole other context, and he thinks that's really cool. And I'm like, and I've been calling him and being like, Kevin, all this stuff you've been saying about world building, what I'm really hearing is that you want to travel, because I'm sitting in this city that I never even knew really existed. The city is ringed in mountains.
It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. When I say that it could be San Francisco without the homeless people and water.
No, like San Francisco wishes, honestly.
This is the cleanest city I've ever been to. I haven't smelt piss once.
Not one time, because I
go to Paris and say that.
Oh no, they stay pissing in the streets in Paris. The place is like 40% piss. But like, it's so fucking gorgeous. And then you have this culture that is born out of all this history and context and geography and cultures like that you don't even know, and then you're just dropped down in the middle of it and you're just trying to figure out what it all is. It's extremely stimulating. I have never been more entertained. I've never had more fun. I've never been more excited about my life. But I also have several times found myself in situations where I'm like, well, Jesus, like I might die here. And
is this how it ends, Kelly?
Right, exactly. And just for shit I didn't know, just for assuming that things were the way they are in the US and they're not.
Just for coming out of a cab and telling a lady, as another lady, in a very non-creepy way.
Right? And that could have been our last day.
That night.
That could have been our last day. That one might still come back to haunt us. We'll see. We'll see. I think Santiago got you out of there in time.
I hope so, God. Just
girl, I was like 3 seconds from being like, I don't know her. Just kidding. I think it's crazy.
My only hope is that they want a sassy gringa on their squad.
I don't think that they do.
I don't think that they do. They're not looking for that addition. All right. So I feel like that wraps this episode of, we got a letter on Facebook warning us. Uncle Tom, I appreciate it.
Really good advice. Thank you so much, Uncle Tom. And I know that he loves me and it comes from a place of probably very deep concern.
Concern and experience, which I appreciate.
And experience. He knows what he's talking about. We definitely have taken this advice to heart. I think that we will continue to refer to this. But there's only so much
that we can take to heart. So one of the things that I really got out of this message on Facebook was that no matter how hard you try, there's so much that you can't account for, can't reconcile, can't make up for. It just is what it is in a lot of ways. And tell me we're not just two very obvious gringas.
Just the most. We're just walking around
Kelly
in yoga
with her
pants.
Pale skin, red hair.
Yoga pants, top knot, asking anyone who passes by where we can find some brunch.
¿Dónde está? ¿Cómo se dice? Brunch?
Brunch? I'm sure that's not the word.
Thank God for our fixers. They hook us up with the best brunch.
They do. And they keep us in line just as much as anyone can. Bless their hearts.
Ladies, if you're traveling by yourself, I highly recommend that you find a fixer. And Kelly, I think we should have a fixer episode soon.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we should talk about how we find our fixers, what they do for us, what we look for in them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have some really fun ones here that I would like to discuss. It would be great if we could have them on. We'll see what we can do.
We'll see what we can do. So if you have any advice, helpful tips, tricks, hints, etc., please feel free to pop on over to the Workationing Facebook page. It's just facebook.com/workationing.
Yeah, you know what? Seriously do, because it might keep us alive out here.
Yeah. No, we're looking for all of the helpful advice.
Yeah, if you're an experienced traveler, we 100% do want to hear from you.
Where should we go? Our schedule's kind of open. We've got some places picked out, but, you know, we're safe. Where is life safe, cheap, and good for two gringas out here in these streets looking for a good brunch and mimosa?
Just in search of a brunch. Just a cheap brunch. I really just want a $5 pitcher of mimosas. Is that too much to ask?
I don't know, but I do know that a $5 Eggs Benedict on just the most artisanal bread is $5 here.
It's so good.
No, we had the best Eggs Benny today.
We really did. Listen, when gringos find out about Medellin, this place is going to be overrun and ruined, because honestly, what American does not want to come here?
Just don't go complimenting the women.
No. You just
keep your mouth shut.
You just mind your business.
Down.
Mind your business.
Mind your business right on over to that brunch. And you'll be good.
Yep.
Okay, so are we done?
I think so.
Wrapped another episode?
Yep. Good job, Gringo. You were great.
Thanks. You were too. You were so good. You were the best I've ever had.
Oh, thanks, girl.
I mean it too. I don't just say that to all of my podcast co-hosts.
I just bet you don't. All right. Adios,
Until next time, friends.
Bye. This has been another episode of the Workationing Podcast. If you like what you heard here, make sure to like, rate, subscribe, and leave us a review on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, or wherever else on the internet you're hearing this.
You can also go to workationing.com. That's workationing.com. Check.
Check, check.
Check, check.
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 Wade in the water. It's my favorite song. Okay.